So let's take a look into the next dive into what you're going to be doing as far as communicating with people. Now, we've already established that to be a success in this world, you have to communicate with other people. The more people you communicate with, the better quality your conversations, the more targeted your approach, the more you select the right sort of people to talk to, the more success you're going to have. Otherwise, you're going to spend your time talking to the wrong people and getting really no results, and you're going to get demotivated and you're going to really not have a lot of fun, and it really isn't going to get you anywhere. The more you can start to use your brain to start to isolate who it is you need to be speaking to and the communication level you need to be adopting to get the right result, the more power you're going to enjoy, the more potential income you're going to enjoy, and just the more success. And it's going to feel a whole lot better. You're going to feel like you're mastering your trade, and you're going to feel like you can achieve absolutely anything. Because once you're in that zone, there is nothing that can stop you. Now, most people spend their entire lives out of the zone. They're just going through what we call process subservient thought. They're doing repetition, because they've been conditioned at school to really work in the convergent left side of the brain, which means that they love to learn a process and repeat it, but there isn't much customization there. It just means like you get on a motorbike and you're changing the gears, going up and down, using the accelerator, but you're not using any skill. Now, the skill comes in after you've got used to using the motorbike for a while and you've started to get a little bit more confident. You've started to slip through the gears a little bit quicker. You've started to take bends a little bit faster, and you're starting to cut through the traffic. You're getting a second sense. You're starting to become aware of what's going on around you in a more hyper state than you would be otherwise. This means that you can start to really pile on the speed of what you're doing, and your brain is keeping up with you because it's gone through these basic processes. It's exactly the same with success. Once you've got a system that you start to master, and then you can start to customize that to your particular approach. So the system that we're offering here, and this is the offer, is that we're looking to upgrade a person from position A to position B. Position A being who they've been so far in their lives, giving them a certain result, to position B, which is a far more accelerated state of mind in flow state, hemispheric synchronization, where they can start to become creatively problem solving very, very quickly, as well as critically thinking without a sense of having to validate themselves. They can co-create with other people without feeling that they're, losing some part of their ego, or that they're losing some part of control. And they're in a mindset that really can just keep taking the next level in life. So in other words, they've gone from a rather pedestrian way of living to now really becoming a Formula One kind of mind, a Formula One kind of life, and a Formula One kind of lifestyle. So that's the product that we give people, because we know that the neuroplasticity of the mind can change based on function, intention, environment, and we give it the right sort of stimuluses, it's going to get quicker. We take away all the blocks, we take away all the limitations, and then we start to get it to clear, and then we start to give it the right programs that are going to get it to really rock on really quickly. Sky's the limit. It's just taking a standard brain and turbocharging it with some fuel injection into it, and that brain is going to work just as it was designed to do, not as society pushed it down. And this is exactly the same with your brain. Your brain can do exactly the same. Depends how far and fast you want that brain of yours to go. Now, you can hear within what I'm doing here, I'm in a state of flow. I'm recording these in a one-trip operation. I'm not looking to re-record them. I'm not looking to edit them. I'm not looking to make mistakes. And it doesn't matter if I do make mistakes, because we're in a line of communication where my job is to give you an example of what we do with people's minds, how we accelerate them into these super creative states where they can become more artistic, they can become better communicators, they can be able to create videos, they can create strategies and structures that will allow them to make life a lot easier, which means that their relationships will get better. They will start to see depth, and they will start to find true meaning, destiny, and purpose. So these are big things that you're offering people. And really, most people, because they've been stuck in a very limited mindset for a very long time, that it's very difficult for them to be convinced out of the structure that their brain has orientated them to be within. In other words, they developed a way of living that is far within their real potential. Now, when you're talking to people about this, you're going to have to look at and listen to the words that I've used already in this presentation to give you some of the words that you need to use to give people a bit of inspiration, a bit of insight, so they can get to the second step, which is going on one of our workshops, which is your job to promote. Now, to do that, you've got to give them a little bit of enthusiasm, a little bit of motivation, a little bit of a feeling from you that it's going to be a great opportunity for them, and it's going to be a great experience for them to take it to the next level. And believe you me, for me, I couldn't live in any other way than the way that I have done in these last number of years. And that period of my life, which is between the ages of 50 to 60, has been constantly accelerating. And we know that the peak period for the brain, if you've been taking care of the brain and you've been feeding it the right food, giving it the right incentive, giving it the right environment, is going to be between 60 and 70. And that's really where the full acceleration comes in. Everything up until that point has been like a starter, an hors d'oeuvre, something to whet the appetite. But unfortunately, within society, it's the reverse. We're seeing that people in their 20s think that they're at the top of their game there because society's telling them that. And then after that, it's a gradual slow down. And companies are orientated around taking on new blood when the real power of the mind comes in very much later in life. So you can see people are retiring at their peak period. And does that make sense to you? No, it doesn't. But what it does also do is it gives people a program for them to get to believe that really once they hit 60, it's a pretty well game over. Once they hit 50, it's game over. Even 40, even 35. And some people I talk to, even at the age of 28, feel that they've left it too late and it's all over by then. It's just a state of mind that is absolutely ridiculous, but it's what society conditions us to be. So when you're going out to talk to people, and as I've said, any conversation and every conversation, doesn't matter, it's as a social event, a networking event, online, business event, down the road talking to people, anybody will be interested in this subject. They won't necessarily take the initiative, but you've got to kind of lead them. You've got to kind of agitate them. You've got to kind of push them a little bit because really they're stuck. And if you take a person who's stuck in mud, you can't just talk to them about, oh, you're stuck in mud. You've got to give them a little bit of a pull. You've got to give them a little bit of a push. You've got to give them a bit of encouragement. You've got to give them a bit of love. You've got to give them a bit of belief that they're going to be able to get out of that mud and life is going to change. Otherwise, that shell identity, the identity that's sort of like in the ascendancy for the first part of life, is going to overwhelm them and overtake them, and they're not really going to go along with what you say. You've got an immense amount of tools to support you, by the way, here. You've got books, you've got websites, you've got written material, you've got audio material, you've got visual material, you've got all of these things to share with a person, but to be fair, it doesn't make a huge amount of difference. It does give you credibility, certainly, but in their mind, what they're looking for is that little push to go onto this particular presentation because they don't want to be disappointed, and that catalyst comes down to you. So when you're talking to somebody, let's say in a networking do, you're not wanting to explain loads of information about what we do. A lot of people, when they want to start promoting these sorts of things for the first time, they go, well, if I know every aspect of the product and I believe in it, then I'll be able to do it. Well, that's the first bullshit that they're feeding themselves. If you are good at communicating, you don't need a lot of information to be able to get a result. For example, if you say to a person, would you like to have more success? Well, they're going to go, yes. And if there was a way for you to have more success, then they're going to go, yeah, I might be interested in that. Well, what's not to like? Now, if you look the part and you come across the part and you actually look and walk and talk like success, then they're going to believe in you. If you don't, then they're not going to believe in you. So it's very much you are selling you to be able to sell them themselves. In other words, moving for them from the A to B person. Now, you can say to them that you've been part of this organization, and if you take on board what I'm talking to you about, even at this basic level, you're going to find that your motivation goes up if you allow it to, your activity goes up if you allow it to, and your success goes up if you allow it to. And you're going to find that you're accelerating away from other people, which means you're now in a leadership position. Now, if you go to people and sort of talk to them from a subservient position, then it's not going to work out, because you're representing mental acceleration. So you've got to be ahead of a person for them to want to catch you up. And that's a kind of important position for you to take. You do not want to be thinking of this industry as a service industry. We are a leadership industry, and you are a leader. And that is an incredibly important lesson for you to learn. The customer here is always wrong. The customer is not always right. Because if they were right, they would already be moving from the A person to the B person. They'd be there, wouldn't they? But they're not. They're stuck because society has pushed them down, and you are liberating them. You are freeing them. You, through your inspiration, your words, your insights, your cool demeanor, you're getting them to take that next step. And to do that, you've got to start to recognize that you are a leader, and they are wrong if they don't want to accelerate the mind. Now, it doesn't mean that you're going to put them down or lord it all over them. You've got to be kind of collaborative, consultative here, and say, look, if we could just move you a little bit further forward, get you a little bit more creativity, get you just a little bit better communication skills, a little bit more self-confidence, a little bit more ideas, a little bit more solution capacity, would that be something that you would like? And they'll go, well, yeah, well, how would I do that? Well, first position is to take it easy and go on a first step. See whether this fits. It doesn't suit everybody. What we're involved in is the business of mental acceleration. And you've probably never heard of that before, other than outside of working with a Nintendo or something like that, which is all about brain training, which is frankly completely useless because it's always working with the mind as it is. To change the neuroplasticity of the brain, we've got to do function, intention, and environment and bring to bear literally 30 keys to be able to do it. It's not a simple task, but you don't want to overwhelm the person with all of this information because the information relating to mental acceleration is massive. It's a science. We call it the science of the unknown universe. It's a huge amount of material, over 200 hours of audio-visual tape, over 1.5 million written words. It's quite a lot, really. But even then, it's still scratching the surface. But we don't want to overwhelm a person's mind straight away with giving them this huge mountain to climb. That's going to be a natural progression because once they start walking, they've got to walk somewhere. And each step takes them further up the mountain. But first off, we've got to get them to think, well, maybe it might be a good idea to go start climbing this mountain rather than running away into the bottle or into the TV or into something that's a distraction. Because really, aspiration is something in our society that has got pushed down a little bit. It's got a bit of a dirty name. The desire to have more is, aligned with greed for some reason. But we're not talking about greed here. What we're doing is recovering where a person was at 5 with really a genius level of innovative creative capacity that they were born with, and science tells us that that was the case. And we're also being told by the age of 31 that only 2% of the population retain that. But within that population, there are people with high PQ, people who are wanting to surface, people who are wanting more, people who are aspirational. So this kind of program is designed for the aspirational individual. It's the one that wants to get to the next level. Now, that might be the person who wants to get a job. It might be the person who wants to get out of a job and start their own business. It might be the person who wants to have success in their business, the person who wants to automate their business to have more freedom, or the person who wants legacy for their business because they've already made money, or the person who wants to give back, which is really what legacy is. It's giving back to other people and giving back what you've learned. And they want a facility to be able to do that. What we're also looking for are people who are trainers, people who can train professionally in mental acceleration and help other people to think quicker. It's the very next step to coaching. Coaching's about giving tips to people. It's about helping them where they are within the current A mindset to do a little bit better. Mental acceleration is a complete upgrade of the mind. So we've got a completely different way of looking at life in a B position. And that's a better position. You could say what we're looking for is the people in the A, aspirational, not the ones that are a bit arseholey, but the aspirational ones. We can shift them into a better mind space, not a mindset, because that's like concrete, and we can start to accelerate them away. So when you're talking to somebody, what you've got to do is look at them and start to analyze. Do they come across to you as someone that wants more? Do they come across to you? Just ask them a few questions. Would you like more from life? Would you like more money? Would you like a better relationship? Would you like more profits? Would you like more salary? Would you like more success? And people always say, well, yeah, obviously I would, but obviously doesn't make action happen. That's just a smokescreen sort of like agreement. What you're looking for is to sense that person genuinely would like to. They're probably moving away from pain of the past, in the fact that they've just been going along with what life has been offering them, and they just feel there's something more to them. A lot of people have this idea in their head that there is something hidden within them, that they have a meaning to be here. And that's true. There is a destiny path for all people, but some people have a more realized one. It's closer to the surface, and this is what you're starting to work with. And that means you've got to not just sell a person the idea of going on this program, or even going on to a workshop. You've got to consult with them. You've got to start to step into their shoes and empathize with them and start to speak from their position and use something called third-party stories, where you use the previous conversation that you've had with somebody else as an inspiration to talk to the next person about. For example, you'd say, look, well, this person I was talking to 10 minutes ago, a lot of what they were saying made sense, but there was this big undermining principle in them, something that was holding them back, some belief, some value that just wouldn't go away and was holding their whole success, their whole happiness back. And what we wanted to do was give them the opportunity to overcome that barrier. Now, what I'm doing there is just picking a story from the previous sessions that I've worked with, and you will work with talking to people, taking the objections that people have and using them in the next conversation to illustrate a point where someone is stuck, and that is what we can help them with. And as you start to grow in this, you're going to find new solutions, because your creative mind is going to start to develop these solutions, and you're going to start to think ever so much quicker. You're going to be able to communicate quicker, and you're going to be able to overcome problems a lot quicker. Now, we don't do therapy. Therapy is what you do with people who've got real deep psychological problems. And I have a clinic here in Zurich where that's what I work with people on. They're people who have got deep levels of anxiety. They might be suicidal. They might be anxious. Lots of different things. They're quite serious issues. So you can see that someone in that space isn't really going to accelerate the mind. They want to get out of trouble. And funny enough, the same techniques are used, but just in a different context. Then you move into the next section, which is coaching. So a lot of people go, oh, is this like coaching? And you go, well, coaching really, as I've expressed to you, is about giving people a few tips, maybe a strategy here or there. It's not highly effective. It does have a benefit, and certainly an athlete who has a coach is going to do a lot better, because the coach is going to be able to see their blind spots. They're going to be able to see things that they can't see in themselves, because it's very difficult to self-identify your limitations. But again, it's still working with the same old mind. The structure of the mind hasn't really changed. Just got a few more thoughts in there, but it's still running on the old hardware. But if you go into mental acceleration, it's a different game. What we're looking at there is getting the basic neuroplasticity of the mind to restructure, in other words, grow, so we can run better, more faster programs in that mind that don't have any limitation. And then that means it's a state of clearing the mind. And that means that what we're looking to do is to take away all the negative voice, the mind static, all the bits and pieces that are holding that mind back, get it to go a little bit clearer so that person can now focus that energy on what's called their experiential learning bank, which is the wisdom of their life, not remembering certain events, but actually a wisdom bank. And also it's downloading from the quantum field. This is where all insight and inspiration comes from. So it gets a little bit more technical. A lot of people might get a little bit put off by that because they kind of like going, oh, that sounds a bit woo-woo. But it's not woo-woo at all. It's simple understanding of how the brain works and how we're not just localized within our brain based around what education tells us. So once you start to get some words about this, I want you to start practicing. When you start talking to people and asking them what they think. Now, you might want to do some market research and say to people, do a little questionnaire and say, look, what do you think of this particular subject? If you could do this, would you do that? Would you take the acceleration? Would you look to improve your life? What aspect would you want to improve? If you could think quicker, communicate quicker, be more creative, be more, aware in your life. And you can start to ask questions of people, because when you start to ask questions of people, you're not really pitching somebody. What you're doing is asking them to tell you their problems, what they're looking for. And they've probably not even thought about what their problems are. They've not even identified them. They've not even considered to think about what life might be like if they were to dream a little bit more. So what I want you to do is ask, questions. You might want to start with people in your family. You might want to ask them, what would they feel like if that was the case? How would they feel? And practice your conversation. Notice what objections that they have. Notice the limitations. Notice the doubt, delay, denial, distraction. Notice the immature argument that they come up as a defense system, even the more mature argument as a defense system. Notice these patterns that they are forming, and once you're starting to get used to them, you're going to be able to start to navigate them a whole lot better. So this does take a little bit of practice, and the only way to do it is to start communicating with other people and starting to ask them who, what, why, where, when, how, and ask them what they think about a certain subject, what reservations that they would have, what doubts they would have, what feelings they might have about something. Yeah. And in other words, they're going to give you their mindset. So you can then go, okay, well, listening to what you're saying, you seem very focused on this particular area and that particular area. If we could take those areas away, how would you feel life might be? Now, they might go, well, I'm not really interested in life being better. Well, there's a lot of people around like that. But hopefully, you as an individual, because you want life to be better, I want life to be better. I want the world to be better. We all want the world to be a better place, so we can move not just about what's beneficial for the person, but also what's beneficial for the planet and beneficial for society as a whole. And the troubles that we may be facing in terms of people coming out of work, lots of stress, lots of anxiety, lots of people having mental issues because they can't cope with the stress of what's happening because of AI. The metaverse, all these things are coming towards us. And whilst we don't want to scare with people, what we do want to do is just touch and flavour on it and say, look, we might, one area that you might want to be looking at, maybe not now, maybe in the future, is what's going to go on in the digital world. And that might be something that you want to start looking and covering right now, because it's going to affect your business. So, forewarned is forearmed, and you might as well start to become prepared right now relating to it. Now, as I said, each person has a different hotspot. And when you're in the consultative role, you're just stepping into their shoes, empathizing with their thoughts and starting to guide them to an alternative way, or a way that they feel from your confidence, your self-assuredness, your advice that this would be a good path for them to take. And if they take that path, then you can't, that's super cool, but you cannot force people who are not ready to go on this particular path, because it's not like going to get, a product like a new iPhone, come and get this because you're going to feel better because your iPhone's better than everybody else's. This is about them. This is about their growth. And this is about their physiological and psychological position to be able to grow. Now, within the products that we offer and the actual services that we offer, we do fitness. We do mental fitness and physical fitness. And physical fitness isn't the normal kind of fitness. It's one where they can start to reprogram the metabolism so they don't have to, they really can eat what they want then, and they can still start to lose weight without using weights or going to the gym or doing press-ups, sit-ups or anything like that. They're starting to use something called antagonistic muscle groups, and we have that as a very advanced program for really anyone to step into to become healthier. So that's another angle for you to use. So it's not just about aspiration as far as becoming successful in life. It's also about having a really successful body that isn't going downhill. And as you go through the aspects of the program and ask the person who is directing you, the person that is one of the trainers on the program that will be directing you and what you're doing and giving you advice and wisdom, as you start to go through this, please ask questions. Ask as many questions as you can, because it's only through questions that you will gain the answers that are necessary to create the foundation for your success.